Hello everyone, myself Padmaja, Associate Professor, Department of CSE, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. Now, let us discuss today a number of questions related to arrays and solve a number of problems using arrays concept. Now, first we will discuss about the definition of an array. So, define an array. So, an array is defined as a finite, ordered collection of homogeneous elements stored in contiguous memory locations. So, the definition contains three important words over here. One is called finite. So, what do you mean by finite? Finite means the data range must be defined. Next is called ordered collection. Ordered collection means data must be in contiguous memory addresses. That is called ordered. And homogeneous data element. That means the data should be of similar type. So, the array is a collection of finite ordered collection of homogeneous data elements. Now, how to write or how to define an array? So, the syntax is data type followed by the name of the array, and within square bracket, you have to write down the size of the array. Example, int n of 10. Int is the data type, integer data type. N is nothing but the name of the array and 10 is nothing but the size. So, it is finite. 10 is a finite size and the data elements will be stored one after the other in 10 contiguous memory locations with a particular address, in memory. Second one is float marks of 5. So, float is the data type, marks is the name of the array and 5 is the size. That means here we are going to store 5 different marks of students. Here we are going to store 10 integers. That means it reserves the property of homogeneity also. Now, next question is how to access the elements of an array. So, the elements of the array can be accessed through its indexes. For example, we have an array of marks of size 5. So, we will write, suppose it is an integer array, so we will write int marks or mark of size 5. So, when you declare like this, then the first mark will be stored at marks of 0. Suppose the first mark is 55. Second marks is suppose 32, then 70, 87, 78 and your 25. So, the marks will be stored and accessed through their index. So, marks will be stored at the indices 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. There are 5 elements are there. And the first marks if you want to access, then it is nothing but marks of 0. You have to write marks of 0 is nothing but your value is 55. And marks of 3 is nothing but the value is 78 and so on. So, the accessing the array elements is always done through its indexes. Then, next, how to initialize an array? We can initialize an array during declaration itself. Otherwise, using the scanf statement also, we can read the elements from the standard input device. So, let us talk about the how to initialize during declaration. So, to initialize an array, suppose int marks of 5 is an array. So, we are initializing here with 5 integers. Now, whenever you are skipping or you are not giving the size of the array. For example, int marks within bracket, I didn't mention the size of the array and I am just giving 5 elements. Then compiler automatically takes the size of the array. So, you need not worry about it. Then, how it is stored? So, for visualization, you have to see that the value 19 is stored at marks of 0, the 10 will be stored at marks of 1 and so on. And so, marks of 0 is nothing but the value 19. Marks of 1 is nothing but the value 10 and so on. This is the way we have to initialize an array during declaration. Next is how to insert a new element and print the array elements. Now, suppose the array contains 5 different integers. So, mark is an integer array containing 5 different marks over here. Now, if you want to access any particular element, that is called random accessing, is possible in an array. So through its index, we have to do random accessing. So marks of 3 will give you the value 9. Okay. So, marks of 3, if you want to replace with a new value, then this is 0th index 1, 2, 3 and 4. So, this particular array is storing the values like this: 19, 10, 8, 17 and 9. The indices are 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. At present, marks of 3 contains 17. If you want to replace with a new value by 9, so you can write marks of 3 is equal to 9. So that the value at marks of 3 will get replaced by 9. Next, similarly, if you want to read any value for any of the indexes, then you can write a scanf statement. Suppose I am writing scanf, read one integer, so percentile d. Then marks of 2, you are providing the address of marks of 2. Suppose I am reading a value 5 over here. So marks of 2 already containing your 8, then it will be replaced by 5. Similarly, print the marks which is there at 0th index. So it will print 19 over here. So this is marks of 0 contains 19. So it will print. So you can insert a new element, or you can randomly access any element and display it, or you can modify the content of the array using their indexes. Now coming to multidimensional array. So we can create an array of arrays known as the multidimensional arrays. So we can talk about, see this diagram, which is nothing but a 2-dimensional array containing 3 rows and 4 columns. So this is a 3 by 4 array. So in this 3 by 4 array, how to declare a 2-dimensional array? Suppose you are writing integer x of 3 and 4. So here 3 is nothing but the number of rows and 4 is nothing but the number of columns over here. That means totally it can store 12 elements. It can store 12 elements. So what are the index position? So the index positions are, the first element is at 0th row, 0th column. So x of 0, 0. Second element is at 0th row, first column and so on. The last element is there at second row, third column. So x of 2, 3. So based on these index positions, the elements are stored or inserted into an array and it is removed from the, or it is accessed from the array. So there are some examples for array initialization. Suppose C is an array of size 2, 3. That means 2 rows, 3 columns. You have to understand that this is an array of 2 by 3. So 6 elements will be there. So this is 0, 0. This is 0, 1. 2 rows are there. So 0 and 1 and 3 columns 0, 1 and 2. So this index position just I am writing. This is 0, 2. Then it is 1, 0. Then it is 1, 1 and 1, 2. Now what are the values, how you should store? So you can write all the 6 elements continuously. Otherwise, if you want to group the elements row wise also, it can be done. So here the elements are grouped for the first row and for the second row. So the first value is 1, then 3, then 0, then -1, 5 and 9. It is stored like this. So this is called an array initialization. Second one, you can see this example. The number of rows has not been mentioned, but only columns are mentioned. So from the values, the values are grouped into rows. So in each row, 3 elements are there, which is nothing but 3 columns. How many groups are there? There are 2 groups are there. So compiler automatically decides the number of rows in this matrix is 2. So 6 elements are there. Now in the third case, you can see that the elements are not grouped into rows. The elements are given in contiguous order. So from these elements, automatically it will build a matrix of 2 by 3. Now similarly, for a 3-dimensional array, for example, there is a 3-dimensional array test of 2, 3, 4. That means 2 3 by 4 matrices are available, or 2 3 by 4 2-dimensional arrays are there. So the third one is how many two-dimensional arrays are there. So, two-dimensional arrays are there, which is nothing but 3 by 4. So, how to initialize? So, for initializing, 3 by 4 matrices are there. So, how to initialize the values? So, for initializing, you can see over here that it is using the concept of nested arrays, where the first row is 3 by 4, 12 elements are there, 3 rows. So, this is for row 1, this is for row 2, and this is for row 3. Okay, 3 rows are there, and each one is having 4 column values. So, this is for your 3 by 4. Second one is, this is the row 1 for 3-dimensional matrix. This is row 2 of the 3-dimensional matrix. So, you can understand this way. Otherwise, you can understand this matrix as like this. So, it is 2 by 3 by 4. That means there are 2 3 by 4 matrices available. So, this is the first one and this is the second one, and these values will be fit like this. So, you can group it and give the values which is needed for 3 by 4 matrix. Otherwise, if the values are also given continuously, so there are 24 elements are there. 3 by 4 means 12 into 2, so there are 24 elements are there. All these 24 elements, if you will give in contiguous order also, it will group it into according to the declaration of the matrix and according to the size of the matrix. Next comes to the advantages of arrays. What are the advantages of arrays? So, the first advantage is you can store multiple data items of the similar type under a single name in an array. Second is, you can use the array index or array indices for randomly accessing the array elements, iterating the arrays using their indexes faster than any other method. That means, if you want to do some traversing operation or if you want to do searching or sorting, then these operations can be easily carried out through their indices. Then, we can store and fetch any value at runtime using the array index. So, array index is a important concept for doing the random accessing and also carrying out the different operations on this data structure. So, array is a basic data structure or a linear data structure where the operations can be performed are insertion, deletion, updation, your traversing, searching, sorting, merging. These are all different types of operations that can be carried out easily using their indices. Next, it allocates memory in contiguous memory location for storing its elements. In an array, whenever you declare the size of the array, automatically during compile time, memory is allocated for these elements. So, it doesn't require any extra space or additional space for storing its elements. So, hence there is no question of memory overflow or shortage of memory. So, as the memory is static in nature, static memory allocation is done in arrays. So, there is no chance of memory overflow or shortage of memory. So, with the help of arrays, we can implement other data structures like linked list or stacks, queues, trees, graphs. These other data structures can be easily implemented through array concept. And as the arrays can be of different order, that is multidimensional arrays, we can write 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional and higher dimensional orders. So, it resembles to the matrix concept in mathematics. Now, coming to the disadvantages of arrays. Disadvantages of arrays are, first, we need to declare the size of the array in advance. So, in some of the applications, it is unknown what is the exact requirement for storing and how many elements need to be stored in an array. So, sometimes dynamic requirement comes into picture. At that time, arrays may not be a useful data structure. Next, the arrays are static in nature. So, it means that the array size is always fixed. So, we cannot increase or decrease the memory allocation. We cannot do it during runtime. Array elements are stored in contiguous memory allocation. So insertion and deletions are sometimes difficult as we need to do the shift operation whenever we want to insert an element in the middle of the array, or if you want to delete an element from the middle of the array, then shifting operation should be carried out to fill that gap. So this shifting operation requires additional memory, space and time. Now allocating more memory than the requirement sometimes leads to wastage of memory space, and less allocation of memory also lead to problems in an array. So this is the only major difficulty in an array, because as a programmer sometimes there is no prior knowledge that how many elements need to be stored, or will there be any requirement in future that how to extend this array dynamically, which is not possible. So fixed requirement when you have, then it is better to go for an array concept. Now, after understanding the basics of array, let us move on to the Dev C++ compiler and run some programs using array concept. Let us start writing some programs. So the first program is to read a string and print it in reverse order using array. So in this program, we are not going to use any built-in function for string reverse. So we will write down a loop for reversing a string, and we will store this string. The character array concept we will use for storing the string. So first we will start with #include stdio.h header file. As I am not using the built-in reverse function, string reverse function, so I need not write string.h. Then write down the structure of the main program, int main, and let us write return 0. So the first thing is we have to read a string. So for reading a string, let us declare str of some size 30, and let us take a looping variable I, okay, and we'll take one counter. Suppose initially counter is equal to 0. So first of all, read a string by writing printf. A message you write, enter a string. How to read a string? The most important function is called getString. So getString followed by the name of the array, str. So getString function is an unformatted IO function which will read a string and store it. So it will store it in an array, character array. So your string reading is over. Next, we will write down a loop for traversing through the array, and then we will write down the reverse logic. So for I is equal to 0, then followed by str of I till we will not reach to the end of the array, not equals to your null character, because at the end of this string always null character is inserted, and then you do I++. And this loop we are writing, just we will put a semicolon or a null statement to make it that this loop will simply run, and the control or the control will go to the end of the string. So this is called null statement. So after reaching to the null character, now we will print the characters in reverse order. So how will you print it in reverse order? Let us write the for loop again. So for I is equal to I minus 1, because now I has reached to the null character. I is now pointing to the null character. So we'll write I is equal to I minus 1 till I reaches to 0. So I greater than equal to 0, and then do I minus minus. So we are coming from back side that we have reached first to the null character. So from the null character, we are coming one step before it, I is equal to I minus 1, till I reaches to 0, we will come in the reverse order, I minus minus. Now we will print it. Each character, so percentile C, comma, str of I. So if you want to also count that how many or what is the length of this string also, so we can use the variable, so counter plus plus we can do over here. Okay, so this is for reversing. Otherwise, the counter is not required. You can remove. Okay, let me first remove the counter, and first let us go for reversing. So save the program. Name of the program is reverse underscore string, and save it as .c file. After that, run and check. Now it is asking you to enter a string. Let us give a string welcome to IARE. Now you can see the string is reversed. Okay. Now, so we have completed this program. Along with this, if you want to find out the length of the string also, we'll do small modification to this and we'll print the length of the string also. Now here we have already taken a counter variable and we didn't use it. Now what we will do? We will do it counter plus plus. We can do it in the previous for loop also, and we will print the length of the string. Length of the string is, length is always integer, so percentile D, comma, counter value. So save this code and run it again. We'll take a string welcome to IARE. Now you can see here the string is reversed and the length of the string is 15. It is displayed over here. Now you can copy paste this output and paste it in your program. So in this way you can write down a C program for reversing, for reading a string and then for reversing a string and finding the length of the string using a character array. Now let us move on to next program. Now in this program we are going to read a string and check whether it is palindrome or not. So we are going to read a string and we are checking whether this string is a palindrome string or not. So in this program also, we are not going to use any built-in function for reversing a string. So what is a palindrome string first? So whenever you will read a string from left to right and right to left, and in both ways the characters are same, then that string is called a palindrome string. Okay. Now let us start writing. So hash include stdio.h. Let us change this to next line. Okay. And the basic structure of C program, int main and return 0. Now, first thing what you have to do, you have to read a string. So for that we need to declare a character array, character str of some size. Okay, let us say 20. Now, declare some looping variable I, j, and let us take a flag. Initially, flag is equal to 1. First of all, read a string. So, write printf, enter a string. Enter a string. So, for reading a string, the unformatted IO function getString works better. So, always write getS of str. So getString function only takes the name of the array where it has to store the string. So give getString of str. Str is the name of the array. Okay. Now we have to first find out the reverse of the string, and after that we have to check the reverse of the string. If you read a string from left to right or from right to left and check the characters from both sides, if it is same, then it is a palindrome, otherwise not. So first, let us go to the end of the string. So let us take for I is equal to 0, str of I not equals to null character. We are going to run this loop. So \0 and then I plus plus. Just use a null statement and the loop will continuously just run till it reaches to the null character. Now, read the characters from one character from front side from left to right and another character from right to left, left to right and right to left, and try to check whether the character at the left to right, the first character, and right to left, the first character, are they same or different. If they are same, then go for checking the next character from both the directions. This process will continue and somewhere both the variables will meet. Okay. If all the characters are same and you have checked all the characters from both sides, then we'll say it is a palindrome, otherwise not a palindrome. Okay. So let us take another loop for j is equal to 0 and we will take one character from reverse side. So I is equal to I minus 1 because the ith character is null character. We have already reached to the null character. So we have to come to I minus 1. Then how far you will continue? Till j less than equal to I. Then we have to increase j and decrease I. So I minus minus comma j plus plus. So here I indicates a character at 0th index from left to right. Sorry, j indicates a character at 0th index from left to right and I indicates a character from right to left. So I is equal to I minus 1 indicates that it is null character minus 1, which is the actual string, the last character. So let us first compare both the characters. So str of I, if str of I, or let us take str of j, is same as, or if it is not equals to, first time itself both are not same. So str of j not equals to str of I, then you need not check further because if the first characters are not matching, so obviously it is not a palindrome string. So we will make the flag is equal to 0 and break this loop. Otherwise, it will continue checking the characters. If they are matching, then it will continue the loop. Till j is less than equal to I, the loop will be continued. Otherwise, when the loop condition fails, it will come out of the loop. So, we will check if the flag is equal to 0, then it is not a palindrome string. But if the flag is still 1, then it is palindrome. So, we can print the message that the string is palindrome. Percentile S is palindrome. Else, it is not palindrome. So, printf. So, here let us complete this. Then we'll write down the variable there. So, percentile S is not palindrome. So, what is the variable name? Is the array name is str. So, here also we missed it out. Let us write str. Okay. Now, we have written the program. Let us save it as palindrome string and save it as a C file. So let us check once whether we have written our program correctly or not. So let us compile and check it. So we have compiled, there are no errors. So let us give a string. Suppose I am giving a string as welcome. So welcome is not a palindrome. Now let us go for another test case. Run it again. You know, madam is a palindrome string. So let us check it. So madam is palindrome. We can run for 2-3 test cases. Suppose little is palindrome. So check it. Yes, little is palindrome. And let us go for one more test case. So where we will take program, is it a palindrome string? Program is not a palindrome string. So we have tested this program using a number of test cases that whether this string is palindrome or not. So after completion of this, let us move on to another program where we will check how many alphabets and non-alphabets are there in a string. So let us write a program for this. Read a string and check how many alphabets and non-alphabets are there in the string. So we will also print the count of the number of alphabets and non-alphabets. So let us write down the structure of the program. First has include stdio.h followed by int main and return 0. So after writing down this structure, first of all you have to read a string. So for that, let us declare character str of size some 30. Okay. Now let us take one looping variable int I, comma. We need to calculate count the number of alphabets. So take a variable alpha which is initially 0 and take a variable non-alpha which is also initially 0. Alpha and non-alpha are variables which will store the count of how many alphabets are there and how many non-alphabets are there. Okay. So first let us read a string. So the best example can be an email ID where the email ID contains the alphabets and non-alphabets. So let us write enter a string, and if you want you can enter your email ID. So for reading a string we will again use the getString function, getString of str. After reading the string, let us write down the condition. So there are beautiful functions called isAlpha, and your isAlpha is a function which will check whether it is an alphabet or not. So isAlpha function is defined in the header file ctype.h. So if you want to use isAlpha function, then you have to write #include ctype.h. If you do not want to use isAlpha built-in function, then you can take the help of the ASCII values and check whether it is an alphabet or not. So let us do in both the ways. So if I am using if isAlpha of str of I. So for this, if you are using, so let me write down a loop. So my loop will run till the end of the string. So I'll write down for I is equal to 0. str of I not equals to null character, my loop should run. So \0 is the null character. Okay. And then I ++. So after writing this loop, I'll write down this statement. The if condition I'll write inside the loop. If isAlpha of str of I, first time I is equal to 0. So isAlpha function will return true or false. If the 0th character is an alphabet, then it is going to return true. If it is not an alphabet, it is going to return false. So if it is returning true, then I will do the counter alpha ++. Else I will do non-alpha ++. Non-alpha ++. So this way, this loop will run from 0th character till it reaches to the null character. That means we are traversing through the string and we are checking each and every character whether it is an alphabet or non-alphabet. So after doing this, we can write down the print statements to print how many alphabets are there and non-alphabets are there. So print number of alphabets in this string is nothing but the counter values %d, alpha counter, and similarly the number of alphabets in this non-alphabets, number of non-alphabets in this string is %d, counter is non-alpha. Okay. So after writing this program, save it as alpha and non-alpha. Okay. .c, otherwise change it to .c file, save it. Now let us run this, compile and run. So first thing is enter a string. Let us take an email ID which is a suitable example for this. Let us take your welcome IARE 123 @IARE.ac.in. This is a mail ID. So the number of alphabets in this string is 19 and the number of non-alphabets is 6. So you can take any example and you can display. Now let us go for another example. Suppose John 12 or John 1985 @your gmail.com. Then how many alphabets are there? So you can set the count, how many alphabets are there and non-alphabets are there. So you can copy paste the output in your program. So you can paste it over here. So the number of alphabets are 12, number of non-alphabets are 6. So in this way, you can write your programs using array concept. Now similarly, we will write down another program. Let us write down another program using the array concept for matrix multiplication. So the program is matrix multiplication. Now, how to do matrix multiplication? For doing matrix multiplication, first of all, we have to read two matrices and using the logic for matrix multiplication, one row, one column. One row, one column will be multiplied and a single value will be generated. So, the number of rows will be multiplied with their corresponding columns and the matrix multiplication can be carried out. Before doing matrix multiplication, what are the conditions are there for matrix multiplication? That also we need to check. So let us start writing the matrix multiplication program. So hash include stdio.h and int main and return 0. So structure of the program we have written. Then first of all we have to declare the matrices. So int a of 10, 10, let us take size 10, 10. A is a matrix, similarly B is another matrix of size 10, 10. Then C is a matrix we will take where we have to store our output of multiplication. C is a matrix of size 10, 10. Then to read the number of rows, let us take the variable R1, C1, then R2, C2. Number of rows and columns of both the matrices we will read using the variables R1, C1 and R2, C2. Then followed by looping variables we need. So let us take some variables I, J and K. Now before reading the matrix element, first read what is the size of the matrix. So let us write printf, enter rows and columns of first matrix or matrix A. Let us write matrix A. Put the message, then write scanf statement. So we are reading two values. One is for row size and column size. So %d twice followed by ampersand. Give the address of R1, C1. After reading the rows and columns, let me read the rows and columns for second matrix. So let me copy paste this and change this for second matrix. So enter rows and columns for matrix B. And let us change this variables to C1, R1 to R2 and C2. So we have read the size of the matrices. Then what is the condition? So if you want to do matrix multiplication, then the number of columns must be same as the number of columns in the first matrix should be same as the number of rows in the second matrix. Otherwise, matrix multiplication not possible. So let us check that. If C1 is not equals to R2, C1 is not equals to R2, then matrix multiplication not possible. So let us print this message, matrix multiplication not possible. Otherwise, it is possible. So let us write else part. So if it is possible, then you have to read the data for matrix A and for matrix B. So let us write down the message. First, enter data elements. Enter data for matrix A. How to read data for this matrix? So the matrix contains the number of rows and columns. So for that, we need two for loops. So first, the outer for loop will run for number of rows and the inner for loop will run for number of columns. So for I is equal to 0 till I less than the number of rows R1 and I plus plus. Next, write another for loop for j is equal to 0, j less than the number of columns is C1, then j plus plus. Now, so to read the element, we will use the built-in function scanf, and at a time, one element will be read and stored into the particular index. So percentile D, your ampersand A of ij. So you are providing the address of 0th row, 0th column index. So in that index, the value will be stored. Now, this is for reading the content of matrix A. Similarly, we can read the content of matrix B in the similar manner. So let us copy paste this code and do it for second matrix. So enter data for matrix B. So here we will change this to, in the for loop we will change this to R2 and this will change it to C2 and the name of the matrix will change it to B. Instead of A, this is the B matrix. Okay. Once the data is read for both the matrices, now we'll write down the logic for how to do multiplication. So let us write down a message before doing multiplication that the resultant matrix is just a message we have written. Now write down the matrix multiplication logic. So how to do matrix multiplication? Write down. So 0th row will be multiplied with 0th column to get the first value in the output. So write down for I is equal to 0, I less than R1, I plus plus. Now for j is equal to 0, j less than C2. C1 or C2, anything you can take, then j plus plus. Now, initially, we will initialize the output matrix, that is C of ij. We will make it, initially it contains zeros. So, C of ij will initialize to 0. Right? Now, how to do multiplication? For that, for carrying out the multiplication, we'll write another loop for k is equal to 0, k less than C1, then k plus plus. Now, what is the logic for matrix multiplication? The output will be stored into C of ij. So, C of ij is equal to A of ik. So, we will write down C of ij contains originally 0. So, C of ij plus A of ik into B of kj. B of kj. This is the logic for carrying out the multiplication. Once one value is produced, let us display that value. So, by writing when the innermost loop is over, one row and one column will be multiplied. So we will get a single value for the output. So that output we will display. So I will write percentile D. If you want to give some space 7 or 8D, okay, comma, C of ij, you just display it. That means the first value which is there at 0th row, 0th column will be now displayed. Okay. Now when the second loop is over, then that means you are getting the output for one row. So one row is over, then it should look like a matrix. So we'll write down a /n over here so that the second row will come in a new line. Otherwise, all the values will come in the same line. So to give a look of matrix, we should write down /n after the inner loop, because one by one row will be printed. Now, so this is the logic we have written for matrix multiplication. Now let us save this and check whether the program is working or not. So Control S, matrix multiplication. We have saved it to matrix multiplication. Save it as .c file. Then compile and run. Now, look at here. Enter the number of rows and columns of first matrix. Suppose I am giving 2 space 3. 2 rows and 3 columns. Then for second matrix, 4 and 5. Now, you can see that matrix multiplication not possible, because what is the condition for matrix multiplication? The number of columns of the first matrix must match with the number of rows of the second matrix. So, the condition didn't match. So, the message has displayed that the matrix multiplication not possible. Let us copy paste this output and then we'll try another test case. So come to our program. Let us paste this output. Now run it again. Now let us say take 2 rows, 3 columns for matrix A, then 3 rows, 2 columns for matrix B. Now what will happen? The condition is satisfied. The number of columns of the first matrix is matching with the number of rows of the second matrix. So matrix multiplication possible. And what will be the size of the output matrix? It will be 2 by 2. So now it is asking enter data for first matrix. What is the size of first matrix? It is 2 by 3, which is 6 elements we have to provide. So give 6 elements. Suppose 1, 3, 5, 6, 2, 1. First matrix. Data for second matrix, it also requires 6 elements, 3 by 2 size. So 2, 4, 5, 1, 6, some 7 or 8. Now, after multiplication, the resultant matrix is a 2 by 2 matrix and the output is like this. Now, you can copy paste this output and Control C and paste it in your code. So, in this way, we have done a matrix multiplication program. In this video, we have learned the basic concepts of an array, and then followed by we have executed a number of programs using array concept. Thank you so much.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.